Sports Challenge 2020.
Image title, a tight finish. There's good expressions on the cyclists in this image and good movement on both of the bike wheels. But I think if it were mine, I would be zooming in a little bit to remove the distraction at the top where the Manchester and the HSBC billboards are. I'd be sort of cutting down to the red on there, and also I would come up a little bit at the bottom so that we could cut out the magenta square and the number at the bottom. This will make the cyclist bigger in the frame. You can still tell what's happening. There's still room for them to cycle into, and I think that this would improve the image. Image title, Collecting Money Bags. I really like this one. The author has caught the moment at the perfect time, and the expressions of the people in the crowds, they just add to the tension and they don't distract from the narrative. They're all part of the story. The only one thing that I would do is I would target the red clothes on the people in the crowd and just change that down to something like a brown so it didn't pull your eye. Maybe increase it slightly on the money bag so that your eye is going to what's in front of the crowd rather than being drawn to behind the man and the horse and the money bag. So less distractions in the background by just altering the reds, but otherwise a really good shot. Well done to the author. Image title, Don't Look Now. I find this image a bit tight in the frame. The main rider is right at the edge of the frame and I feel that it needs more room to ride into. It's all a bit squashed, in other words. Maybe landscape format would have been better, allowing this sort of space. Also, the guy at the back, I would do something about the red in the top that he's wearing, because that's pulling my eye behind the main rider. Red always pulls the eye, and I think it doesn't need to be red, it can be changed, and I think it would add to the image. I like the depth of field. The guy, the rider at the front is nicely sharp, and it fades out and drops off as you go back to the one behind and then the one at the back. So I think the depth of field has been handled really well. There's also a highlight that I would definitely remove. It's at the top right hand corner. It's a simple job to clone that out, and that wouldn't have any pulling of the eye. So a few adjustments, but generally I think it needs a bit more space. Image title, Double Tackle. This is a good black and white image showing a really nice range of tones throughout the image. The treatment of the background is good. There's no distractions. All your attention goes to what's going on with regards to the tackle. The expression on the guy on the right is really good. It's a pity you can't see more expressions in the picture, but you can't have everything with these. I do like the composition of it though. It's a bit triangular, which is always a strong composition. The only thing I might do is I might add a slight vignette on it, not too much because there's not a great deal of room around the action, but I think a little bit would just hold it together a little bit better and it would improve it. But yeah, decent shot, well done. Image title, I Think We Are Winning. I'm not too happy with the composition here. The boat is sadly sailing out of the picture on the left hand side, which is not always good. You've got all that space behind it, but like I say, it's going towards the edge and sailing out of the picture. The title suggests that it is a race, but the image looks like just one boat having a leisurely sail. So it doesn't really reflect what's happening visually. The lighting's not so great, and it's fairly flat in general. and the background for me is a little too much in focus. If there was a shallower depth of field had been used, it would have been better because it would have thrown the back out a little bit, but you would have still been able to tell what the background was. Would have took you more attention to the actual boat itself. There's also a white chimney on the right hand side which could be either cropped off or toned down, but it's a bright spot on the left hand side at the edge, which is not always a good thing. Another thing for me is the white border going round. I think it's far too thick. I wouldn't really put borders on at all if I could get away with it, but if I do have to put one on, it'd be more like 1 pixel rather than this. This looks at least 5 pixels. So in all, sorry, but it's just not one of my favourites from the bunch today. Image title, Ice Skaters. Firstly, I think the image should have a different title, something better than just Ice Skaters. It's an ice hockey match where there's lots of action, and just Ice Skaters doesn't really do it justice. So I think a title that was more relevant to ice hockey or the actual action would be much better. There are some good points in this image that I like though. There's a nice balance of colours going through the image, mainly red, black, white and grey, which all work really well together. Also, the positioning of the two parallel hockey sticks going in a diagonal line is very good for the image and it adds a lot of dynamism. I do, however, find the bright lights in the background, especially on the barriers going round, distracting, and I would definitely have to do something about them. The main area for me is on the right hand side, where it looks like it's probably blown out. But all in all, a good effort, so well done to the author. Image title, Slipping the Tackle. I personally prefer these rugby shots in monochrome, and if it was me, I would convert this to a monochrome image because I think it's worth it, because it's a good shot. I like the facial expressions, especially of the main guy in the white that's coming towards us. I think it's got a good composition, and I think I could slightly improve it with a bit of cropping though. What I would do is I would crop a little bit in from the right, not much, just a little bit, and add a little bit to the left, just a slither going down the left hand side, which would put the guy in the white absolutely bang on the third. And when you look, I've tried this, and for me it looks better. It's only a slight adjustment, but it does make a difference. And when you look at the two together, I prefer the image with that crop done. But that's just something that I've noticed, and I believe is better. But like I say, the main thing will be converting it to monochrome for me, and I think it's another good rugby shot. So well done. Image title, Sprint. The main problem I've got with this picture is that I think there's too many runners in it. My eye is going all over the image looking at all the different expressions and of the 8 runners that are present. So the main runner has got a really good expression on his face, and I would have preferred to see a more close-up shot of him with maybe a couple of other runners behind him, just 3 in the image rather than 8, with good complementary expressions, but him being in the middle of the two, pulling that face, would have been a winner of a shot for me, and it would have had much more impact, which is what competitions are all about these days. They're all about impact because judges don't have much time to see an image. So if they've got to look around at all the 8 runners in this picture and it was in a competition, it would have gone before they'd examined it properly, and they wouldn't have given it such a high mark. So I think it lacks impact for me, and like I say, these type of shots, I think it's better to get fewer people in them rather than all of the runners. But yeah, decent anyway, decent image, so well done. Image title, The Driver. With sports images, I really do expect to see some action, and this image doesn't have any action in it at all. For me, it looks like a guy sat in a static car that's parked up, and he's just sat in there looking cool and not doing anything. And I do, like I say, expect to see some sort of action in a sports competition shot. The image also doesn't appear to be very sharp, which I think it's lacking technically as well. And it might be a bit better if you could see a bit more of his face or his eyes, but because he's wearing sunglasses, this is preventing us from seeing his eyes. This might have improved the image a bit, maybe. Also, there's a very big distraction at the top of the image where the sunlight's hitting the grass. This is drawing the eye away from him. So, all in all, I think that this image has not really got much going for it, I'm sorry to say. Image title, Water Skiing at Salford. I think this is a good mono action shot. The skier's got a good expression showing in his face, and you can see the concentration. And also, I think there's a good amount of spray in the water showing, and I think the composition is good. So there's one thing that does jump out at me though. I think it may have been over sharpened, or the treatment might have been overdone a little bit, because there is a halo going round him. Now this can be removed, but it's a sort of classic thing that happens when you over sharpen something, and a judge will jump on this as I've done. And I think if you can remove the halo, I think we've got a good shot there. And I like the range of tones throughout the image as well. So just a little bit of work to do there to improve it, but well done to the author. Image title, Well Left. I think this shot has been taken at precisely the correct moment. It shows the batsman, or the bats boy, having just moved into action and the ball being left to go past. It's still present in the frame and it's going past the wickets. So the timing, like I say, the author's done a good job. But there are a couple of things that I think are letting it down a bit, this image, and one of them is the out of focus edges. It's like there's a vignette going round that's out of focus, and unfortunately part of the narrative or the story is the wickets and the ball, because that's what he's actually left. And that's too out of focus for me. Don't mind the other side being a bit out of focus because it's not really part of the story. So apart from that, I also find there's 3 white flags or markers in the background that are very distracting and don't do anything for the story. I would remove those, the ones right next to the wickets as well, and I would get rid of those, and also the white dot that you can see just behind the bats boy. You can see a white dot on the floor which just stands out in the green too much. So a little bit of cloning out there would improve it and make him stand out more. I'd also tone down the white areas in the top right corner of the image where there's a building and some cladding at the front that's white. I'd just tone that down so that your eye's not drawn up there. Don't mind it on the other side so much because it's a scoreboard and it's part of the story, but the plastic cladding on the building next door doesn't do anything, doesn't add anything, and it could be just, toned down, and it would improve the image. But like I say, the best thing about this for me is the moment that you press the shutter and caught the action just at that moment. So maybe it's worth going back if you can do anything about the out of focusness and maybe address some of these issues, and I think you'd have a good shot then if you could. Well done. Image title, Wrestling on Horseback. Well, this looks like a shot taken at the same time as a previous image I've seen today, collecting money bags. But for me, unfortunately, it's not as good. The image is too busy and messy. The people in the background are too sharp, and they are therefore getting mixed up with the two guys on horseback. When you look at the people behind, especially the guy to the left of the horse, he doesn't look overly interested, so that doesn't help the picture, as with the other one where they were looking very enthralled in the action and what was going on. They don't look, like I say, very interested in what's happening. There's also some colour problems that are distracting in the background. There's a red tape going along and there's a red flag, which is not something you want in the background when you're trying to talk about what's in the foreground. The same applies to the stripy canopy on the right hand side and the guy's shirt who's underneath that canopy. These are all distractions in the background that don't help the image. As well, there's a simple cloning job that needs doing on the ground to the left-hand side of the left horse, where you can see there's a piece of paper on the floor that's just like a white stripe that just needs removing. So there's quite a lot to address in the background for me in this image, and the actual two subjects and the action, it's just, for me, not strong enough because it's a bit too messy. They're a bit too tangled up, and I think you probably have took a lot of pictures of this on this day, and you might find there's another one where there's a bit more separation, so there's more impact in the picture. Personally, I wouldn't pursue this because there's too much going on that's wrong in the background, and like I say, it might not be helping because I've seen the other one, which was such a good image. Anyway, that's all I can really say about this one.